welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wanted to save the earth and ourselves and a better place for our kids, then do we have the Climate A New Story show for you. Today I'll be talking with Charles Eisenstein, the best-selling author of numerous books, including The Ascent of Humanity, Sacred Economics, and The Most Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible, economist, humanitarian, and activist, and the author of a brilliant new must-read on healing Mother Earth, Climate A New Story. And that's just what I want to talk with him about today, about what's really going on with the world today and what we can do about it. That, plus we'll talk about the importance of passenger pigeons, seppi, garret, and the Conodoguinet Creek. Say that 10 times straight. Prairie dogs in the rain, Occidental arts, and the Ecology Center, the dangers of mcMansions, and what in the world temporary employee type number 2 has to do with anything. So welcome to the show, Charles. Are you ready to shine?
I am, Michael. Thank you.
Woohoo! Well, thank you so much for joining me here today. Before we dive right into things, what was the day as a young child that made you realize you were going to be an environmentalist?
Well, I did not know the word environmentalist at the time, but what happened was, and this is kind of picking one of a series of events, but what happened was I was with my dad. I remember holding hands, looking at a big flock of starlings. I thought it was a big flock, and I said that to my father, and he said, "Yeah, that's a pretty big flock, but let me tell you about the passenger pigeons." And he told me about the passenger pigeons that were in flocks so large that they would cover the entire sky, and they would fly by for hours and hours on end and block out the sun. And he said people would point their guns up and shoot, and the passenger pigeons would fall down, and they would just do that without any. I mean, it was impossible that there would someday no longer be passenger pigeons. But then he said, now there are none left. They're all extinct. And that was the first time I understood extinct. I knew that the dinosaurs were extinct, but this one like really hit me. It just seemed so wrong and incomprehensible. And how could we do that? Like, how could human beings do that? I had this puzzle that wouldn't go away and stayed with me for decades after that. And that's one of the events that set me on the course that has taken me to where I am today.
When you were in school, I can remember being in history class and they're talking about different wars. And I turned to the teacher and I said, why? Why are we doing this? And the whole class actually kind of ganged up on me like, oh, you're so stupid. And when did you sense something was absolutely wrong with the paradigm we're in today?
It was this question of why and being dissatisfied with any of the answers I was given. So I went level after level after level. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't just the passenger pigeon or the Amazon but also wars, genocides, and just the kind of ordinary misery that people suffer under. And even the things that I couldn't name as wrong, but I felt them as wrong. The school system, for example, the worksheets, the homework, that feeling of oppression, the feeling of liberation on the first day of summer or on Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
And this dread of upcoming life, the dread of Monday. And there was part of me that knew that it's not supposed to be this way, that life, that maturity is not a matter of knuckling under to grim reality, but that it's supposed to be so much more beautiful. And so that knowledge bedeviled me in a way. And I was offered a series of answers to what is the root of this problem. And all of them were unsatisfying because they didn't go deep enough. And so that's what led me to the answers. And this took decades to come to an understanding that satisfied me. That wasn't, for example, about elevating some human quality into the status of enemy. And if we defeat this thing, then we will be saved. And this is feeding into the climate narrative too, that the whole mindset of save the planet, like I'm a little bit wary of that even.
And we will get to that, because what happens, as you're alluding to, when you say the save the this or the save the that, is a reductionist tendency to go after one piece of a very complex, I'm going to use this word loaded for a reason, living machine.
The tendency to reduce a complex thing to a simple thing is one of the deep patternings of our civilization. One form that takes is the hunt for an enemy in, say, US foreign policy, but it's also the hunt for the germ or the pathogen or the particular gene in medicine. And if we fix this one thing, then everything will be fixed. So that mindset is a linear and reductionistic mindset. And a lot of the solutions to our crises, including the climate crisis, come from this mindset and are insufficient to the task.
How did you end up? I'm wondering if it's about a girl. How did you end up spending so much time in Taiwan and going over there and learning more of an Eastern side of things? How did that help you to shift and get out of this bubble?
I think the biggest, well, so how did I end up there was feeling dissatisfied and miserable in America, feeling like an alien. At least in Taiwan, I had a good reason to feel like an alien because I was, looked different than everybody else.
Yeah.
And what it did for me, I had experiences both just from being immersed in a different culture and language, but also anecdotes and stories and personal experiences I had that didn't fit into the picture of reality that I had been given. So these experiences, say, with Chinese medicine or with qi or with the belief systems and the cultural practices there, they said to me, Charles, reality is not what you think it is. It's not what you've been told. And the story that says that Western civilization is ascending closer and closer toward truth and dominance, and that this is a good thing, that whole story is invalid because it's missing so many huge pieces that are visible from here. And so if that's not true, then what else isn't true? What have you accepted, Charles, as reality itself that is actually just a story? So it cast me into a questioning of basic premises. And if I had stayed stuck in those premises, I never would have come to the understandings that I eventually came to, because paradoxes and contradictions were built into the very language that I'd been using, into the conceptual language. The ways I was trying to understand the world contained in themselves unsolvable problems. So I would have been stuck in a maze. And so I'm really grateful for my time there to have had experiences that broke through the bubble of the real, in quotes. And I think a lot of people are having these experiences today that just don't fit, that don't fit into the world that they've been offered as real, or the formula for being a successful human being that has been offered to them. Like, here's what you do when you get sick. You go to the doctor fixes you. They know what they need to know. I don't know how long that you want me to go on here, but I could.
Well, I just had I can't believe I'm going to bring this up here, a dear friend who passed away last night from cancer, and watching her go through the struggle and watching Western medicine, different Eastern philosophies, energy healing, watching all the different paradigms competing against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going, there has to be another way. There has to be another answer. And kind of drawing that home to you. And I do believe the answer is love. And we're going to get there. And I don't mean love as in, kumbaya. But you went through a long period of intensifying crises as you were trying to figure out this, didn't you?
Yeah. Life wasn't working. I at least half-heartedly tried the formula for how to be a happy human. And it wasn't working. I didn't go the full Monty, like the full corporate job and all kinds of stuff. I was fighting and resisting it the whole time, as many people in my generation and after do. So I'm Gen X. We invented the paradigm of the slacker, he could do it, but he doesn't. He's procrastinating. He's lazy. And I think that this procrastination and laziness is a form of, in a way, healthy rebellion. It's a mutiny against the program. And even if we can't articulate exactly what we're rebelling against, on the soul level, the urge to departicipate, I guess you could call it, is unstoppable. And then, of course, that's pathologized by the dominant culture, which thinks that a healthy expression of humanity is to fully participate in the program. So these crises are not like that special. The process I went through is so common today, and it's almost normal to be in this state of crisis. I mean, that's why 1 in 5 people are on psychiatric medications. I want to denormalize that.
So going on that, and you used the word humanity. So that dovetails nicely. How did you start to come out of this tunnel and write the Ascent of Humanity?
I don't know how I did it. Those were really hard times for me. When I wrote that, I wasn't some kind of like thought leader or celebrity or anything like that. It was almost like this hopeless task. But I was taken or intoxicated almost by the beauty of what I had been shown. Because that's when the pieces kind of came together of what is the origin of the crisis?
Yeah.
What is the origin of the wrongness? Where is this all coming from? What unites the killing of the whales with the prison industrial complex? Like, how are these all part of the same thing? That's the realization that crystallized in that time. And it was so breathtaking that I was just compelled to do what I knew how to do, which was to write a book, to share that revelation with the world. And I don't know, like then I wrote the book and I was like, here, teacher, here's the answer. Now everything's going to change, right? I get my A+, right? But as you might expect, it was not an instant bestseller. In fact, your description of me as a best-selling author, I'm afraid, probably isn't accurate. But yeah, so it was really this intoxication with something that was so beautiful to me that it wouldn't let go of me. It's not that I cannot lay claim to any extraordinary personal capacities. I'm not especially heroic or anything. It was that I was chosen or seized by this material. And I'm sure you've had experiences like that when you're seized by something and you can't put it down. And that's so different from having to exercise willpower to make yourself get up in the morning and do what you have to do. It's becoming an instrument for something. And I'm not like that all the time. Sometimes I'm dropped by whatever has seized me. Sometimes nothing has seized me. And I'm in this in-between space, which in our culture, we value productivity and getting it done and producing some output, something measurable. And those in-between times, the times of gestation, of regeneration, of reconnecting to source, where there's no obvious product, we tend, influenced by the culture, we tend to discount those times. And I feel uncomfortable sometimes, despite knowing better.
Well, that's when the programming runs that says, if you're not doing, then you're less than.
Right.
And that program can really start screaming in our ears, but that is the exact time that we need to step back and let the answers of the world, in a sense, chase us down, let that still small voice finally be able to reach us.
I just hesitate to offer a formula for how to do it.
Yeah.
Even if the formula is surrender and let go. That also gets fed into the program of, okay, now here's what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. And to trust that we're in the hands of a larger intelligence that is giving us the right experience at the right time, and to even just taste that idea of maybe I don't have to do anything. Like maybe there's nothing wrong. And the paradox being then sinking into that, the appropriate doings come naturally and even unstoppably. But maybe we're not as much in charge here as we think, which is the idea that we're the ones in charge. That's part of the story of separation that I discovered at the base of all our crises. The separate self manipulating a universe outside of himself.
What is the addiction that's killing us right now?
So on a planetary level, fundamentally, it's that we have a serious deficit of belonging, a serious deficit of connection. Most human beings on this earth would look out at the people around them and know each one of them intimately.
Yeah.
And they would know every being, every plant, every animal, each kind of soil. All of these were intimate companions. And every feature of the landscape had stories attached to it. Even the language itself was an emanation of the environment. So this was intimacy. This was belonging. You knew yourself deeply through your relationships. You knew who you were. Today, we have very little of that. Most of our life-sustaining relationships are with distant strangers and institutions, commodified food system, suburban landscapes or urban landscapes where we're immersed in a sea of strangers. Mm-hmm. And even if we live, quote, in nature and can look at beautiful mountains, like how well do you really know that mountain? Do you know it as an intimate, lifelong friend or generations-long friend where there's a story or a myth, an experience of every bump and cranny of that mountain? Do you know where the different kinds of birds nest? Do you know what those birds eat? Do you know how they build their nests and what kind of tree is in that nest? And where the bees go at different times of the year, and like all of that web. So we don't have that, but we miss it deeply. We miss our full beingness because we're not separate selves. We're not self-sufficient. We are relational beings. So cut off from all of those things, cut off by our economy, cut off by our religion, by our education, by our metaphysics even, cut off from those, we seek to compensate for what's missing. So we seek to add more and more to the separate self in a futile attempt to recover our lost infinity. So as long as anyone is cut off from community and cut off from nature, they're going to be hungry for something. The real hunger is for belonging, for feeling at home here. But the hunger can be temporarily assuaged, and the craving dulled by consuming things. Could be drugs, could be consumer goods, could just be money, to have more money, to have investments and a portfolio and insurance and all that. That gives a hint of the kind of security that you have if you are fully embosomed in the world. But no amount of money can really substitute for it. Therefore, the craving is endless. No amount is enough. And there's addiction.
I love that you use the word embosomed.
Yeah.
It's so appropriate. We have forgotten home. We have lost home. And we've actually built up, the home is right in front of us. I was in New York City a few years ago. I stared at like an eagle or a falcon or something, dumbfounded that had landed in this tree. And I looked up, jaw hit the floor, and a guy's walking by, nice clean suit, briefcase, got his mocha latte thingy. And he's like, what? And I said, look. And he said, nature? I don't do nature.
Uh-huh.
We have forgotten who we are, where we came from. What is the new story? Thich Nhat Hanh calls it interbeing. What is that?
Yeah, I like to use that word as well. And it's like I was saying, the understanding that we're not separate selves, skin encapsulated egos or souls encased in flesh. That's not the essence of self, but the essence is relationship. The essence is that we are, you could say, a holographic mirror of all that is. We are the totality of our relationships, and that therefore that anything that happens in the world happens to ourselves. Any species goes extinct, something in ourselves dies. Any person is incarcerated, something in ourself is locked up too. Anything that you judge in another person, maybe that's a mirror of something that is invisible to you that is expressing itself through another person so that you can see it. It says also that any act that we commit in one place has global effects, whether we can see the causal pathways or not. It says that one more thing, and this is important, is that the qualities of a self are not just in human beings. The quality of intelligence, consciousness, agency, subjectivity, like full beingness. In the story of separation, only humans have that because of our highly developed central nervous systems, and beingness is a matter of computation. But the story of interbeing understands that all beings are in fact beings, not just humans. Even the planet itself is alive and intelligent and conscious and has dreams, has a purpose. We're not alone here. And this is like, you could say, the metaphysical or ideological level of a new story, like that says we are not alone here. And it asks us to look at the world through different eyes. Whereas the story of separation says, well, that's all fun fantasy and stuff, but reality is you are this, consciousness inside of a flesh robot. Sorry. And the tree is a bunch of woody tissue, and that planet is a big pile of rock. That mountain is a big pile of rock, and the planet is a ball of rock hurtling through space with a biochemical scum on top of it. Sorry. And the sun is a big ball of fusing hydrogen gas. And if you feel like the sun is watching you, smiling at you, if you feel that the sun is here to give a gift to the world of light and warmth, that's a poetic fancy at best, and a superstitious delusion at worst. And we got to get practical here. We got to get real. What's real is what we can measure. And you see this in business. What's real is the measurable results. But I think that the measurable leaves things out. It leaves out everything that we don't know how to measure, or that is fundamentally unmeasurable.
And it comes back to that reductionist, this one thing or that one thing. We're going to dive into Mother Earth here in a second. For instance, going after a carbon footprint. It's sort of like giving a bonus at a company. You give a sales bonus for one thing, and it inevitably hurts the company in a completely different way because of the unforeseen consequences.
Exactly.
And that's really what's going on at the end of the day. We've lost that interconnectedness of everything.
Yes.
So let's talk about, let's go to the root of the argument. What is climate fundamentalism? What's going on here?
Yeah, that's basically, you see any disturbing, distressing thing happening on this planet, say the frogs are dying, or whales are washing up on the beach, or floods and droughts are worsening, forest fires, insect outbreaks, and why is this happening? Climate fundamentalism says, well, that's because of climate change, specifically emissions of greenhouse gases. And there's kind of a comfort in that, because then we know what to do. There's this one cause that solves all of the problems. It's the same mindset as money, in a way. Like, what's the one thing that if you had that, all your problems would be solved? The one means to every end. So here's like the one thing that we can do to solve every environmental problem. And what I discovered in doing the research for this book is that a lot of what we blame greenhouse gases for is actually caused by other forms of ecocide, especially cutting down forests, draining wetlands, exterminating fish through industrial fishing, and especially also the destruction of soil through modern agricultural practices. Because Earth is alive, and we are damaging its organs. So even if we cut greenhouse gases to zero, if we keep destroying the organs of the planet, then the planet dies of organ failure. And one more thing, like you were saying with the sales incentives, if you incentivize a certain measurable thing, then everybody is incentivized to serve that thing. But what gets ignored and what gets harmed in the attempt to bring up those numbers? So in environmental policy, we're having a global land grab to acquire land to plant biofuels. And what's happening is it's converting entire ecosystems into fuel. and peasant agriculture into jatropha trees and palm oil trees and eucalyptus trees. That's actual, and then not to mention big hydro and nuclear power and all these things that seem to be helping bring down carbon levels, but actually causing even worse damage. So that's climate fundamentalism and the damage that it, or one of the kinds of damage that it does.
Thank you. I lived on Maui for years, lived on the side of a giant volcano, Haleakala. And Maui's really, it looks like to me, over centuries. This isn't just from modern industry, over centuries of what we're doing, drying out. And I was looking at some trees that were not chopped down up high on the side of Haleakala on a very dry desert-like day.
Mm-hmm.
And it really seemed like the trees, what few were left, were reaching up to the clouds, drawing them down and causing it to rain exactly where the trees are at.
Yeah, it's known, vernacular wisdom throughout the world says that the forests bring the rain. And climatologists poo-pooed that for a long time. They said, no, rain patterns, precipitation patterns are caused by geophysical forces, and forests grow where there happens to be a lot of rain. But when you look at Earth as a living being and with a physiology, and you understand that life is that physiology and creates the conditions for life to thrive, mm-hmm. then it makes total sense that forests will bring the rain. And you know, it's very scientific the way that they first through the leaves and the leaf litter and the mycorrhizal networks and so forth, that they soak up water and hold it in the soil and then gradually transpire it over time so that the rainy season gets extended because there's all this moisture going up that forms clouds because trees emit aromatic compounds and even bacteria that seed cloud formation. And then so it rains again, and so the rainy season is prolonged. And not only that, but because they evaporate such massive quantities of water through the layer after layer after layer of leaves, they can evaporate water even faster than an open surface of water can. So that there's this massive amount of moisture going up into the sky and then condensing. And so the theory of the biotic pump says that this condensation into droplets creates a low pressure zone that pulls water in from the ocean. In Brazil, they call it the flying river, like this massive stream of moisture going thousands of miles into the continental interior. So when you cut down the trees, all of that stops. The water doesn't soak in anymore. It runs off and creates floods. The topsoil washes away. And then as soon as the flooding is gone, then you're into drought season. And there's nothing to pull the rain in anymore and nothing to keep the cycle going. So, and then you say, oh, well, that's because of climate change. And I'm saying, no, that is climate change. That's not caused by distant global levels of greenhouse gases. That's caused by cutting down the trees. That's caused by acting in a way that is not in partnership with the forest, seeing it as an other, seeing it as a source of lumber, seeing it as a source of products. And that seeing is allied with an economic system that demands infinite growth, and that only works if more and more of the world is being converted into services and goods. So we're in this complex of perception and system, story and system, that is reaching a critical point of crisis. And it's being revealed now for us to question and say, is this just the way things are? What new story is ready to emerge? How can we serve it?
Thank you. There's so many directions we can go on this, but one that I want to bring to light, and then I want to talk about some key areas that we can start to take action on today. So because I'm all about, it could all be internal action, which is in the beingness, but I'm in us being enabled rather than feeling disabled by the conversation. But you talk about an economic system of, I'm not sure if you use the word infinite growth, but it's a system that demands growth. Really, to me, when I look at our economic system, it is how much can we mine everything, whether it's mining labor, whether it's mining the earth, whether it's mining the forest. It's all about how can I extract as many widgets, dollars, otherwise as I can until I've got a bereft, dried out rock left behind.
Yeah, that's right. And it's not because we're bad.
No.
It's not because of greed, well, unless you understand greed as a symptom of artificial scarcity. But it's like anyone who's seeking to get the best return on their investment dollar, which could be a pension fund. It could be somebody who's representing teachers and firefighters, and they need to get a 5% return a year. So how are they going to do that? Well, your mining company looks like it could get a 10% return on investment. So I think I'll invest in that. And this lumber company, and so it's this systemic thing that, I wrote a book about this called Sacred Economics that went down, like, why does it have to be this way? And ultimately it comes down to the way that money in our system is created through interest-bearing debt. And that would be a whole other topic we could go into. But I also, like you were saying, I would like to go into what we can do about it, and not necessarily we as in, well, if only everybody got it, then we could do something about it. But like we as in you, me, like the people listening, like what can we do about it?
So let's go in there, and either I can guide us through, and you have a premise in the last chapter. You have 18 different areas that we can get to work on. But if you have some key ones that you want to start on, we'll go there. If not, I'm going to dive in with a bunch for you.
Yeah, I think I can sum it up in 4 things, really.
Okay, cool.
4 priorities. Top priority being protect every pristine ecosystem that still is intact.
Amen.
Especially the Amazon and the Congo and anything else, all of the mangrove swamps, all of the wetlands, all of the rainforests, anything that's still pristine, because this is where Gaia's memory of what it's like to be healthy still exists. These are the reservoirs of health. These hold the DNA of a healthy planet. And if we can hold those protected, then as long as we can protect them, there is still hope that health can re-radiate out from these places. This is where, if you want to go to a more esoteric level, this is where the soul of Gaia still remains. And this includes the people who live there and who are in intimate relationship with those places. So that's first priority.
We interviewed last year, I think it was, Peter Wohlleben, the hidden something of trees.
Oh yeah, trees. Yeah, that guy's
The
amazing.
Secret Life of Trees. Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
He's absolutely amazing, and he was talking about how there are teacher trees, older trees that literally teach the new trees, just like you or me would teach our children. And when that wisdom is lost, Gaia is blind.
Right. And there are whole forests of those trees. But yeah, and that's a problem with carbon reductionism. Like in carbon reductionism, the value of a forest is merely in the total of its sequestered and stored carbon. It's in the biomass. That's measurable. But if you remove the 1,000-year-old trees, what are you doing to that forest? We don't have any clue. I was listening to Paul Stamets the other day, who was talking about honeybee colony collapse disorder, and he noticed that the scratch marks that bears make in trees causes like a fungus to grow that grows nowhere else, and then the bees are attracted to that fungus, and they take compounds from the fungus that makes them resistant to colony collapse disorder. So a forest ecosystem with bears in it and with fungi that take a century to grow. Like, you're not going to have that on a tree plantation. All of that becomes invisible from carbon reductionism.
There's a forest by like Morristown or somewhere around there in New Jersey. So between PA and New York City, where there was this beautiful natural forest, and some people came in, bought it, and maybe 100 years ago, and tried to plant different trees in different places. And it says on the plaques, to improve upon nature.
Yeah, that was the mentality.
You walk in there, and the feeling you get, forgive me, everybody, you might want to block your ears, is, your just hair stands on end. There are trees gnarled and the most bizarre ways because it's a forest in such pain.
Yeah. So there is a positive manifestation of this impulse to improve upon nature, which starts with deeply listening to nature through intimate relationship and becoming a servant of the stability and the growth, the evolution of that being. Because we're not actually the bad thing on this planet. We have a role to play. Tending the Wild, it was called. Kat Anderson wrote a book called Tending the Wild about how the Native Americans were integral parts of the ecosystem. So that's I guess that maybe takes me to the second priority, which is to regenerate and heal what's been damaged, to replant forests, to practice regenerative agriculture, holistic grazing, holistic horticulture, rebuilding the soil, bringing back biodiversity to ruined places, to become earth healers. And that is not, like, you can't do that by taking drones and randomly planting a whole bunch of tree seeds or something like that. Like, you have to understand exactly what's needed and wanted by a particular piece of land. You have to be intimate with that land. You have to be in relationship with it. You have to be willing to learn and to communicate over decades or maybe even over generations. So that's from the living planet view, we have these damaged organs and we need to repair them. And people are doing amazing work with that. When they actually form that intention and have the humility to listen to the land, then miracles happen. Springs that were dry for 30 years come back to life. Biodiversity that was thought extinct comes back. It's incredible, the healing capacity of this earth, just like a human being. If people are, in stage 4 cancer, terminal, and they have a remission. If that's possible for humans, what's possible for the planet? If we are hopeless, that is irrational. It can happen. That takes us more to, anyway, you look like you want to say something.
No, go for it. I can bookmark where I was going. You're on a roll.
Okay. All right. Well, so yeah, that was second priority. Third priority is to stop poisoning Earth on a tissue level with toxic pollution, pesticides, herbicides, and so on. And I'll just go, fourth priority is to cut greenhouse gases. So important because they put stress on a weakened system. But the first three, I think, in my view, are more important. And that makes me a bit of an apostate in the conventional environmental movement, where it's all about the carbon. And the strategy is to get everybody really alarmed about the bad things that'll happen to us. And I think that is a losing strategy.
Would you say that strategy is, like I was talking about with the salesperson, it's a real short-term strategy that ignores the rebuilding of everything? For instance, it doesn't even address the S word, soil.
Right. I mean, it does, soil holds, organic matter, which is carbon. But the importance of soil, like from the water narrative, which I think is actually more important than carbon even, the hydrological cycle, like soil, gets way, way, way more important. Same with forests. But yeah, carbon is not nothing. Like soil and like, you can look at the world through that lens too, but it's a matter of what gets left out. So I want to take it also though to the, like, this is all environmental stuff, and there's this divide between environmental and social activism, environmental healing and social healing, and I think that this is also part of the problem. And when we're in the mindset of interbeing, we understand that the social climate, the political climate, the psychic climate, and the geological climate are interrelated, and that as long as we are, as a society, are brutalizing each other, polarized, dehumanizing each other, fighting each other, then we're not going to be able to be effective healers on this earth. So, and then further, even another level, that principle I mentioned before, which you could call morphic resonance, that, as Rupert Sheldrake says, that any change that happens in one place generates a field of change that allows that same change to happen more easily elsewhere. So your work might be very humble. It might be invisible. You might not be an author or a podcaster with a big platform. Right? Like maybe you are a single mom desperately trying to do the best for your kids, even when it's so hard. And nobody's congratulating you on saving the world. It's totally invisible. But these moments of courage, of resiliency, like these are sending a powerful signal out to the mind of Gaia, which is saying, are you sure that you want me to heal? Are you sure that you're in service to life and not death? Do you really want me here? Do you want a living planet? And so everything that we do that is in service to life sends a request to this incredible, I mean, this is going way beyond, standard ecology. I mean, this is what indigenous people believed it. They believed that invisible beings were watching us all the time. And the idea that, well, that's just primitive beliefs or something. I mean, we're getting a lot less sure that we're the ones now who know how this world works.
Yeah.
So we're opening now to accepting that Earth is listening to us all the time.
So I wonder, we've got such an important premise here, which really what you're saying is everything matters. How I interact with you, how I interact with the soil, with the gas pedal, with the water bottle, how I treat myself on the inside. All of this sends a powerful signal.
That's right, because the climate crisis is a symptom of everything. Therefore, anything that any entry point, there's no, I don't think that it's like that saving the planet is a matter of finding like the highest leverage, highest impact point and operating on that. I think that everybody is called to a healing role, and we can trust the call that comes through our care, comes through, here's what I care about right now. Here's what my heart is telling me is important, even though my mind says, well, how could that make a difference? If I'm, maybe there's people who try to free an orca from captivity, and they might spend years and years doing that, but that's just one orca. The rational mind says, how could this make a difference? They should be campaigning for a carbon tax. That might make a difference, but one orca, that's not going to make a difference. Or what about your grandmother? Taking care of her when she's on her deathbed, changing her bedpan. What if that's what needs to happen? How is that? She's going to die anyway. The rational, quantitative mind would sacrifice that. But that's not the kind of world that we want to call into being. Every act that we do in service to another living being, to life, is a prayer that issues a call for what world we want to live in. No action is wasted, as you were saying. Everything matters.
I have a vision of a dream I had last night. My head was off. I told my wife about it this morning. My head was off, and I was shaving myself, and it was much easier to shave myself when my head wasn't attached. And she's like, well, of course, you've got to get out of your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about what you're talking about, really, is getting out of that rational mind, supramind, larger mind, of course. Source is what you and I have maybe called it on a time or two, many other things. But we have to go beyond this to where we feel called, pulled, maybe especially in this day and age where we're going, this sounds like the craziest thing in the world. I don't know why I need to do this, but I do.
That's right. And then it turns out much later that was exactly what needed to be done. We just don't know. We don't know how this world works. We don't know the importance of sea turtles or bears or people. What are we supposed to be? Yeah.
That is a great question. And all of it, the tiny little, the mosquito that we call a, quote, parasite, everything plays a role. Everything. So let's go from there. I want to give people some homework, some early steps that they can take. I'm remembering a conversation with a dear relative of mine a few years ago who was talking about recycling, and I have a love-hate relationship with it because I don't see where it goes. I often don't trust. I look at my garbage man, and I'm convinced he absolutely takes the cardboard and just throws it in with the trash, and we don't even give it to him anymore, let alone where are these barges going with this stuff. But a dear relative of mine says, the water bottle that I try to recycle, it doesn't matter. Nothing I do on a small level matters. So why, if I had $1 million, if I was if this was before Trump was elected, if I was a Trump, if I had that kind of money, I could do something, but there's nothing I can do.
Yeah, that's the despair people face. In the story of separation, nothing you do matters. And if you appeal to morality and say, well, yes, but if everybody did it, then it would matter. And so you got to do your part. That doesn't solve the problem because everybody isn't doing it. I'm the only one riding my bike. They're all in their SUVs, so it doesn't matter. But when we understand these actions as a prayer and a statement of the kind of world you want to be in, it aligns you with that timeline to that world. And yeah, who knows how those tugs on the fabric of causality, they tug on threads that go underground maybe for 500 years. And then they come out as consequences that are impossible to trace to their origin. I'll just say again, we don't really know how this reality works. And if you've ever experienced massive synchronicity in your life, like these miraculous experiences, or been in that flow state where you keep running into the right person at just the right moment and these amazing coincidences happen, then you understand just how little we understand.
You just triggered something about a few sentences ago that just has my mind going in this direction, which is, and it has to do with my friend who passed away yesterday, and it has to do with people getting very sick and they cross a point of no return and they give up. They feel it's hopeless, it's futile. And looking at Gaia as a living being, I'm seeing her as like green giant, as this giant being. And we have to love her up and help her to see that there is hope and that there is a possibility, and treat her as if she's very sick with cancer, and we can help her to find the courage and strength to get going again. It's not just that she has a little fever right now. It's got to be exhausting.
Yeah. And I think it's important for her to know that we love her for her sake, not because of the bad things that'll happen to us if she dies.
Yeah.
In my book, I talk about that. I'm like, what if we could get along without nature? What if these visions of bubble cities and synthetic food could come true? And, VR displays of the nature that's died already for our entertainment. Like, what if we could do that? Do we want to do that? And seeing that we have taken step by step by step, we've gone step by step toward a dead planet. What is going to make us take other steps in another direction? Every choice that we've made collectively has taken us closer to a dead planet. So what has to change for us to choose life? And that's a question that we need to start asking.
So on that note, I always like to give people homework so they take some action today. So if I took off my coaching hat, Charles, I put it on you. What one action do you want people to take today to step forward on this path?
Yeah, I do not want to prescribe an action for people to take. I want to invoke the knowledge that we all carry of what is the right action to take at any given time, because so many different kinds of healing need to happen. So my message would be to trust what your heart is calling you to do. It's not ignoring the mind. The mind brings information into the being that ultimately feeds into the heart. But the mind is not an effective decision maker, especially in times when the story we use to understand the world has fallen apart and we don't know how things work and we don't know what to do. Then we have another organ that can guide us. So what I'm saying is it is okay to do what calls your care, even though the climate narrative says that it won't matter when sea levels rise 50 feet. Even though you have no step-by-step through line from this action to saving the world. We are being deployed by a much larger intelligence that knows exactly where to put each one of us. And it's a matter of, do you listen to that call? Are you ready to listen to the call? And yeah, I could do a little guided meditation on that if you said you wanted me to do one.
Yeah, so bookmark
Yeah.
that. Let me ask 3 or 4 quick wrap-up questions, then let's dive into that meditation.
Okay.
First off, earlier you were talking about really with these 4 key points, a reprioritization that goes against the strata of society. Instead of what can I do to be more and get mine, it's what can I do because I can hear the voice of my mom. I love you, Mom. This maybe was 20 years ago, not with what we've seen in the news today, but she would say, how are you going to make money at that? What are you going to do to earn a living? That's not a really good career.
Yeah.
But we need to throw out that whole belief system. And that gets me to this next question, which is parents. Jessica, my wife, the producer, my guide for everything, would always ask me to ask, what advice would you give parents to help our kids? Because we have to be the light, and we have to give them the keys to something that's worth driving.
Well, I mean, one thing, as parents, we're under a lot of cultural programming, like your mom. How are you going to make money at that? How are you going to make a living? And we also, at the same time, have a contradictory knowledge that says we are here to serve. We are here to serve life. We are here to serve the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. So we have a tension between those two things.
Yeah.
And so then when we have children, we face the same tension that our parents faced. And if we can transmit to them that second piece of knowledge, that you are a carrier of gifts that are needed by this planet right now, and your job in life is to give of those gifts, and to know that you will receive the support you need in order to give those gifts. It's not like don't make money, money's bad. No, it's that you don't put the money first.
Mm-hmm.
You put the gift first. In gift culture, that's how it works. You give, and you have no control over how the return gift comes to you. It's a step of trust. But the way that it works out in those cultures is that everybody is better off than they would be if they were all competing against each other. So on a universal level, it's understanding like my main job here is to give. And it's not like, I'm not saying, I mean, I have an online course called Living in the Gift that goes really into depth here because, well, that sounds very privileged of you, but what about if you need to struggle to survive? Like there's a lot of complexity here. But just the basic truth that we can all feel, like every person here has a purpose. And when you're in that purpose, when you're giving that gift, then you feel like, this is why I'm here. You feel that sense of belonging we were talking about before. And if you're not giving that gift, then no amount of money can bribe you into being happy and feeling fulfilled. So we want to encourage the gift capacity of our children so that they become effective servants of Gaia and understand that this mother will take care of us.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. On that note, a perfect segue. Where can people go to find this program, to find your books, and to find out more?
Well, charleseisenstein.org, I guess, is the name of the website now. Yeah, everything's there.
Or come on over to inspirenationshow.com. We'll get you over to Charles Eisenstein. All right. Before we dive into a meditation, what brings you the greatest happiness, or what I call the woohoo factor?
I guess I feel the biggest delight if I don't know, I'm getting this image of like pools and hot springs, and just waves in the ocean, just like being on my own timeline, having no demands. Mm-hmm. Gosh, I mean, that sounds like a vacation. But as far as like that actual, which I don't really even do, but last night I was with some people who were in college. They had been in a singing group, and they hadn't sung it for 6 years. There's 4 of them, and they sang Joni Mitchell's song "Both Sides," yeah. And it was like stunningly beautiful. I have no idea how they just like pulled that out of nowhere. But it was just like this. It wasn't like woohoo, but it was more of this being drunk with awe that this beauty can come so spontaneously in that moment. So much wealth is available to us. No one could have been in that room and wanted to go shopping after that, or watch porn or take drugs. It would be impossible if you were to be nourished by that.
The more we dive into our gifts, the more that's available to us all the time, isn't it?
Yeah.
This has been so beautiful, Charles. I resonate with you. I love what you're doing. I love that it's not the simple answer, because the simple answer isn't the answer. It is simple, though, in a sense, but it's not the thinking mind's answer.
It's almost not even an answer.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Would you have a meditation you'd like to share, and any last words along with that?
Yeah. What came to me is this this pattern of conquest that civilization has exercised on the world and that we exercise on ourselves. Mm-hmm. Seeing the horror and wanting to do something about it and feeling guilty for it. But I don't think that the spirit of conquest directed inward is the solution. So instead, if people want to close their eyes for this.
If you're driving, do this later.
Yeah. But yeah, closing your eyes and give your attention to your readiness and willingness to be an instrument of healing, an instrument of the coordinating intelligence that knows where to put you. And be present even to the feeling of, I have no idea how to do this. Making an offering of your helplessness. Imagining your helplessness in both your hands in the posture of offering onto a shrine. And then imagining kneeling at that shrine in the spirit of readiness, openness, feeling that little spark, that little ember, a hot point of light in your solar plexus that you know will burst into the flame of action at the right moment. And that's the potency that you carry with the spirit of readiness. And with patience, open your eyes. With patience.
Thank you so much, Charles.
Thank you, Michael.
This has been phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Love your book. Love your book. Love your work. Want everybody to go out and get this. We may well have to talk about sacred economics. That would have been a steered off in a different direction for today. But you're a wayfarer. You're a light out in the ocean. You're holding the torch in front of you. You're going. And I think where you're headed, sort of like where we're headed, can't say exactly, but we're guided, and it's important work that you're doing.
Thank you, Michael, for your generous words.
So
I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. So got to crank it up for the finish here. So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, get climate a new story, and begin helping rewrite our story today. Shine bright. Woohoo!
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, that was wonderful.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like below. Also, leave your comments. Have some real fun with it. Subscribe to our channel where you're going to get more great videos, more interviews coming up. And check out our website, inspirenationshow.com. That's where you'll find tips, blogs, information, videos you won't find anywhere else, and useful and helpful resources to really help you kickstart your life and to shine bright. Thanks so much again. Thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe. See the website. Thanks so much and have fun. Of course, shine bright. Woohoo!